We're up here at Realtree Farms, and we're fixing to ride around here where we're doing some timber cutting. We're cutting this timber, doing some clear cuts and some thinning, but just doing it all for the wildlife, to improve the habitat for wildlife. I mean, it looks rough now, but in a couple of years, whenever we get some browse and stuff coming back and we do some replanting, it'll be where we want it to be. But there is a method to all this madness, really. It ain't gonna look like it when we show it to you. Years ago, what they did in some of the timber management was they would come in and cut the pine out, and they would leave what they call seed trees. And so periodically they would leave a big pine in here and let it just put off seeds, and all the other tree, it just put off enough seed for all the trees to come up in here, like you'll see right here. Well, what you need to do is, when you use that method, they don't do it anymore, but when they did this, they should have came in and cut lanes in here and basically shaped it up with a cutter to get lanes in, just like you see trees planted in rows, like they plant rows. So, but they didn't. So we inherited this from the previous landowner, and should have been done, but it wasn't. So now we're faced with trying to get in here and fix it. As you can see, now this is an old road bed right here. We've already clear cut. This is a clear cut area. And this is what right here will be too. But this was a road right here, and just even on this road here, you can see the size of these pines. These right here are decent sized pines, and they're getting sunlight and they were able to grow. But whenever we look back in there, you'll see how small these little old pines are. You can see it once you get into the interior here, where there's no sunlight, and they're competing for sun, so they're just growing as fast as they can to get to the top, is try to get to the sun and out of these other trees, and you end up with this stuff right here. And these trees have been here for years, and they're, as you can see in here, it's self-thinning, because eventually, if you had enough years to let this stuff go, it'll eventually will die out, and it'll end up being a decent looking pine forest, but that'll take years and years for it to happen. So that's the problem, is that right there. You want to create the browse for the wildlife and cover. So that's the purpose of this whole thinning operation and clear cut operation.
How y'all doing? It's Slade Priest here, the Hunting Land Man. I got a great buyer's tip today for you. You know, all over the country, people travel to the Midwest to hunt and buy land. And, you know, where do you start? Because there's so many good states in the Midwest to buy land in. Okay, you need to establish, you know, what are your goals for the place and what state can fit those goals. Let's just start with a state like Iowa. You know, it takes about 3 to 4 years to draw an Iowa tag, and you can usually get a gun tag every other year or so. If that's not going to work for your goals, you need to look at another state. Let's take Missouri. Missouri, you can get 2 tags every year, one with one before gun season and one after gun season. You know, so maybe that appeals to you. You know, Missouri has a nice long gun season, so if you're a big gun hunter, that may be your state. You know, me personally, I'm a buyer just like you, and I hope to own land in the Midwest one day. Something I'm going to look at personally is to buy land on a state line. So maybe I can have a place in Missouri and then have a place right there in Kansas, maybe a lease in Kansas or some additional ground in Kansas. That way I get more turkey tags and more deer tags. All these things you need to know. You can go to realtreeuc.com. There's a place on there where you can go find your Realtree Land Pro. Get to know a Realtree Land Pro and say, hey, look, I see you selling Kansas and Missouri, or I see you selling Kansas and Iowa, or Kansas and Oklahoma, whatever the case may be. Tell me a little bit more about your tag situation, your tag dates, and how many deer and turkeys or whatever the game you may pursue I can take in that area. All these things need to come into play when you start your search for your piece of property. Hey, check out realtreeuc.com. We've got properties all over the Midwest, and I hope you find your dream property today.
All right, we was up at the other section of land where we're doing that cutting, and we were talking about the thinning. Now this right here is some thinning we did about 5 years ago. And you can see out here all the browse in here and how open it is. Let that sunlight come through here and hit the ground, and this is what it creates. And so you got the browse for deer and turkey. I leave some pockets in here that I don't burn, that obviously is great for nesting for the turkey, and also great bedding area for the deer. They feel secure in there. Now I'll leave off a section, like we're gonna go just right across the road here. This is cut at the same time, and you can see what's happening here. I've never run a fire through this, and you can see how thick it is. And this is the kind of areas I just leave off and do not ever even burn. But this is just a little old, like a 4-acre patch here that I leave for the bedding area for the deer.
This week's featured property comes from Yazoo County, Mississippi. This 515 acres is a true big buck paradise. Located in the hills just off Highway 3, this property is in a great location. All summer, your deer will feed in the bottoms in the soybeans and corn fields and then come up into the hills to bed. Another cool feature about this tract is you get river effect deer. What does that mean? Well, when the river floods during the fall and late winter, the deer come into the hills on your property to bed, so you may double or triple your deer population in a high water situation. This property has large food plots, a nice creek, box stands, and feeders. So if you like this property or properties like this anywhere in the country, check out realtreeuc.com today.
Up at the other end of the property, we were talking about clear cutting some areas and then come back and replant those pines. And this right here will give you a good idea of what I was talking about. This right here was 2 years ago. So this is a pine, some pine. It's all replanted in pines, but you can see all the browse out here and all the cover. I mean, it's thick, but it's great. I mean, you got a variety of every kind of plant you can name. Obviously right here's a ton of blackberries right here. So, but that's what you're looking for, is to create these kind of areas here. And my idea up there is going to be to go back and replant that in stages so we can have some of this type stuff, you know, as the other pines get up bigger and some of this thins out, we can have some more of this coming on in different areas in different stages. So, you know, you want that variety of stages of growth in all of this stuff, so the deer will always have bed and cover and they'll always have browse.